I was mentally prepared to see some familiar faces at the banquet, but I didn't expect the first ones I saw to be my parents. Ethan, who always looked shabby, was now in a tailored suit, but his awkward manner still didn't fit in. My mother was tenderly fixing his collar, and upon seeing me, Ethan ingratiatingly said to her, "Mom, look, Sincere is here too." I thought I heard wrong. I asked, "What did you call her?" Ethan responded, "Yes, Sincere, you probably don't know, but I've recognized Auntie as my godmother. We've had some misunderstandings and unpleasantness before, but it doesn't matter now. We're family." My father, looking pleased, said, "Ethan is so magnanimous. He understands family ties, unlike Sincere, who grew up with his grandparents and has always been rebellious and distant with us." Ethan laughed. "Brother, this is the invitation to my and Sophie's engagement. I thought it best to hand it to you in person." I retorted, "Who's your brother?" I took the invitation and threw it into the trash can. My dad scolded sternly, "Sincere, that's too much." Apologized to Ethan. I sneered, "This is nothing." I remember Ethan and Sophie got together before Sophie and I had officially broken off our engagement. You recognized him as your godson without even asking your real son's opinion. This is just the bare minimum of what could be called too much. Ethan, looking pained, said, "Sincere, you've been away for years. Sophie and I are in love. What's wrong with me loving her in your place?" Uncle and Auntie were lonely without anyone to keep them company, so I took on that role for you. Is it wrong for me to show filial respect in your stead? You don't thank me, but you insult me instead. I was fed up with Ethan's twisted logic. Listening to him was infuriating. I replied, "What do you mean, because you're in love, you can interfere? Because my parents are lonely, you can call them yours? I was also alone. Why don't you become my son? And I wasn't the one not coming home. They kicked me out, saying they didn't want a son like me. If you love playing the saint so much, why didn't you stand up and say you forgave me back then?" After speaking, I picked up my glass and prepared to leave. Ethan seemed to want to follow, but stepped on my shoe and fell flat on the ground. Luckily, my balance was solid, but the wine in my glass spilled, mostly landing on Ethan. The commotion was not big but noticeable, drawing the attention of people nearby. Sophie and Victoria also walked over. Some whispered, "Again, it's Sincere. Why does he always go against Ethan? Truly a rich bully. How awful, hitting people and throwing wine. Isn't this bullying? No wonder Sophie would rather marry a poor guy than him." Sophie and Victoria spoke simultaneously. "What's wrong? Are you all right?" But Sophie helped Ethan up while Victoria gently wiped the stain on my suit. I said, "I'm sorry, honey. The suit you custom made for me got dirty." Seeing the stain on my chest, I apologized to Victoria with regret. She shook her head. "It's okay, we can always get a new one with your money." I was speechless. The comments teased, "Getting cold, Victoria. Can I warm my hands in Sincere's wallet?" Ethan asked, "Victoria, are you Sincere's wife?" He stumbled to his feet, looking from me to Victoria with disbelief. The comments speculated, it's coming, the big reveal." Ethan never knew Victoria's true identity and cared a lot for her. He gave her so much warmth. She might not care more for Sincere than Ethan. One commented, "You mean the time Ethan mistook Victoria for a poor person and bought her hot milk, spilling it all over her? Sure, that was warm, in a physical sense." Sophie asked, puzzled, "Ethan, do you know Victoria?" Ethan nodded, regretfully saying, "I didn't expect such a good girl like Victoria would end up with." I finished his sentence, "Would end up with someone like me, right?" Ethan was still in shock, mumbling, "Victoria, so you knew all along that the one making trouble for me at work was Sincere?" Victoria nodded. "Yes, I knew." Ethan was even more confused. He asked, "And do you think he's right in doing so?" Victoria replied, "No, it's wrong." Ethan's lips curled into a barely noticeable smirk. A gleam of pride flashed in his eyes but quickly vanished. I caught it. Sophie, who had been humiliated by me before, seemed to see this as an opportunity for revenge. She said, "Sincere, many people are here today. It's not too late to apologize now. I replied firmly, I'm a straightforward person. If I've done wrong, I'll admit it. But Ethan, whether you want to fight, revenge, or to mess with me, feel free to try. I will not apologize. The comments debated, is the protagonist's halo that strong? His parents, childhood friend, and now even the female lead are turning against Sincere. Is he really going to be all alone? Some commented, have the villainous couple struggled for so long only to meet a tragic end? The next comment read, I admit I was pretending to like the captivity play before. As a CP fan, I still hope they have a good ending, especially for the second male lead. Despite thinking I had grown strong and calm after all I'd been through, I couldn't help feeling uneasy. However, in the next second, Victoria gently hooked her arm around mine and softly said, Sincere has his faults. He's not a saint. He has his bad habits and acts willfully. Isn't that normal? But I love him. What you see as Sincere is not the same as I see. To me, he's the best person in the world. I'm the one who's not worthy of him. This was the first time I heard Victoria say, I love you. There was an uproar. Ethan, looking very displeased, said, Victoria, how can you ignore right and wrong? Victoria replied, if you care so much about right and wrong, why don't you first answer Sincere's questions? Why did you interfere when Sophie was still engaged to him? Why did you work to break his relationships with his parents and friends and take his place? Don't you know that's wrong? But you did it anyway. If Sincere's character were truly bad, he would have spread all this rather than bicker with you over trivial matters. Ethan, why don't you ever look for the faults in yourself? Are you really so blameless? Ethan was speechless, only managing a feeble, Sincere just lost his engagement and inheritance, but I almost lost love. The comments and onlookers couldn't hold back their laughter. Even Sophie and my parents couldn't agree with Ethan's twisted logic and couldn't defend him. I interjected, as I said, you can seek revenge, fight with me. As long as you're not afraid of dying, go ahead and try. Just don't back down. Ethan, about to explode with anger, was swiftly pushed aside by a few muscular men, who then nodded to Victoria, exuding a menacing aura. Victoria raised her wine glass gracefully but with cold eyes and said, Enjoy the evening. Sorry, but my husband's suit is dirty. We need to leave. For the first time, I truly sensed Victoria's imposing, devilish aura. What had once seemed like a joke now felt very real. If I had known this side of her during our arranged marriage 3 years ago, I might have backed out immediately. No need to risk life for revenge. As we walked out, I held Victoria's hand and quietly asked, Are those men bodyguards? She nodded, Yes. I asked, Why didn't I see them before? She replied, I don't usually bring them. I asked, Why this time? She smiled lightly, To support your image. I asked, Hypothetically, if Ethan or Sophie or someone else attacked me, would they intervene? She replied, Yes. I sighed. A punch from Ethan wouldn't hurt me, but a punch from a bodyguard might take half his life. It wouldn't be fair. Next time, let me handle it. Victoria looked at me seriously and said, No comparison. A punch on you is something they can't afford even with 10 lives. The comments remarked, Villain couple, you truly live up to being villains. Another commented, Victoria, you've been too gentle with Sincere lately. I almost forgot you're a dark, obsessive yandere. This slapback felt so satisfying. The next comment read, Guess what? In the latest update of this book, the villain couple has become the main characters. Looks like the author realized how popular they are. Though there's no captivity play, you guys still have plenty of chains and toys to play with. Sincere, Victoria, stay happy. This was the last comment I saw. Though they couldn't see it, I silently replied, Thank you, we will. I said, Victoria, shall we play a quick canned? A game? Winter nights were cold and soaking in the hot spring at our villa with Victoria. I wanted some fun. She nodded, All right, ask away. Victoria massaged my shoulders, weary from a day's work. Am I your white moonlight? I asked. She replied, Yes. When did it start? I inquired. 13, maybe earlier. That was when I revealed my succubus form, like my mother's, and my family found out. They fed me drugs, electrocuted me, and made me wear all sorts of strange clothes to hide it. At school, you were the only one willing to interact with me, she explained. Surprised, I said, I remember now. You were that quiet girl in the class next door. You never spoke, and I thought you were a mute who loved cosplay. As a discipline committee member, I had to look out for you. But if you liked me, why didn't you tell me? She said, you had so many excellent people around you. I didn't want to hold you back. I asked, next question, when was the last time you lied? Just now, Victoria admitted, pressing her face against my back, her voice filled with obsession. The real answer to that question is, I want you to belong only to me. Your joys, sorrows, loves, and hates all mine. I turned around, lifting her leg onto my shoulder. Then why didn't you do it? She bit her lip. I was afraid you'd hate me. I asked, when was the last time you wanted to do it? She replied, when you mentioned divorce. Her obsession made me curious. If you had to choose between me leaving you and dying, what would you choose? Without hesitation, Victoria answered, dying. Her skin was burning, her tail gently slapping the water. I said, don't rush. Last question, do you think I like you? Through the faint mist, I saw Victoria's dazed eyes. She said, sincere, having you by my side is already enough. I raised an eyebrow, cutting her off. Victoria, I love you. I can't pinpoint the exact moment or reason, but I'm sure I love you. The rest of my words were swallowed by the water's ripples. I thought I heard Victoria crying. She didn't know I had also told a small lie. Abandoned by my parents and left with my elderly grandparents, I had material abundance but spiritual poverty. I longed for someone who would love me despite all my flaws, never betray me, always passionate. Victoria was the only one who did that. So, I was destined to love her. For the rest of our lives we'll sink together,